Okay, we're now looking at surface area for cylinders, and here's an example of a problem for a cylinder and surface area. It looks like we want to find the surface area because we're getting shrink wrap for some compact discs. If we look at it, we have 20 compact discs, and each disc has a height of 1.2 millimeters and a radius of 60 millimeters. So in order to figure out right now, let's see, the formula for surface area for a cylinder is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, and if you look, all we really need to do is find the radius and the height. And the radius is given to us. The radius is 60 millimeters. The height, we have 20 compact discs, and each one has a height of 1.2 millimeters. So therefore, to figure out the height, which again is the distance between the bases, which are circles in this case, we would do 20 times 1.2. And if we do that, we'll figure out the height here would be 20 times 1.2, which is 24. Ooh. So we have a height of 24 millimeters. And we're going to plug those two things into our formula. We get 2 pi times 60 squared plus 2 times pi times 60 times 24. And I'm going to go ahead and keep this in terms of pi until we get to the very end. So that gives us 60 squared is 3600 times 2 gives me 7200 pi. And we're going to do 60 times 24 times 2, which is 2880 pi. And we're going to add those two together. So we're going to add 7200 to 2880, and we get 10,080 pi. And from there, we can figure out what our answer is. We're going to multiply that answer times pi. And in this case, we would have 31,667.3 square millimeters, or you could just say, probably to the nearest whole number, 31,667 or 68. So if we look at this again, 20 times 1.2 gives us our height of 24 millimeters. Our radius is 60 millimeters. We're going to go ahead and use the formula to plug in all the values. And if we use a calculator, approximately 31,667, which is what we said. Okay, and if we wanted to figure out how many square centimeters that would be, it shows it here. All you would basically do is, we know that 1 millimeter, that 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter. Therefore, 100 square millimeters equals 1 square centimeter. And so we would divide both sides by 100. So if we move it back 2 decimal places, that would give us our about 317 there. Okay. And here's another one where this time we want to find the height. So we're going to use the formula and we're going to solve for the height. So again, our formula is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. We have our surface area, which is 157.08, and we put that in for surface area. We have our radius, which is 2.5 So we plug that in, and then we have 2 times pi times 2.5 times h. And now we're going to solve for h. So the first thing, I'm going to just go ahead and multiply out what we have here. So we have 157.08 equals 2.5 squared is 6.25, and times 2 gives us 12.5 pi, and 2.5 times 2 gives me 5 pi times h. Oops, sorry, I put r there. Should be h, so we'll erase that, times h. And we're going to subtract 12.5 pi on both sides. If we do that, the 12.5 pi's cancel, and we have 157.08 minus 12.5 pi, and this is going to equal 5 pi h. We're going to divide both sides by 5 pi, and keep it in terms of pi until you get to the very end. And here is where we start punching in our calculator. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. We get 157.08 minus, and I'll go ahead and put that in parentheses, 12.5 pi, and the top would be 117.8. We're going to divide that by 5 pi. Whoops. And make sure you put parentheses around the 5 pi, because otherwise it'll calculate it incorrectly. Should get approximately 7.5 if we round, so 7.5 meters. So again, we just plug in all the values for the things that we know, and we get this. We're going to go ahead and simplify. We get something like that. We subtract the 12.5 pi. We divide both sides by 5. We get 117.8. Divide both sides by 5 pi. And we get about 7.5. So our answer is 7.5 meters. Here's another one where we're going to figure out the surface area for a cylinder. We're given the height, we're given the radius, so we're going to do 2 times pi times the radius, which is 10 squared, plus 2 times pi times the radius, which is 10, times the height, which is 18. So this gives us 100 times 2 is 200 pi. This gives us 180 times 2, which is 360 pi. Together they give us 560 pi. And again, don't round until you get to the very end. If I do 560 pi, we get approximately 1759. It's 0.3, but probably to the nearest whole number would be okay. So we get square centimeters there. We get 1759.29. For this next one, again, this time we want to find the radius, so it's a little bit different than finding the height. We know that, if you notice, the surface area is in terms of pi, so I'm going to write the formula one more time. Surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi rh, and we're going to write 208 pi, and that's good because then it'll make it easier for us to figure everything out, and chances are we'll be able to cancel out the pi. And this is why we don't want to round until the very end. We're going to do 2 pi r squared here plus 2 times pi times r times, it looks like the height is 5. So this is going to give us 208 pi equals 2 pi r squared plus 10 pi times r, and we're going to factor out, we want to get the r's by themselves, So we're going to factor out 2 pi, it looks like. So we'll have 208 pi here. I'm going to factor out a 2 pi, and that's going to give us r squared plus the 5. If we factor out a 2, that gives us 5 here, and the pi's go away, so we get 5r there. We're going to now divide both sides by 2 pi, so that the 2's cancel and the pi's cancel, and here also the pi's cancel. So we have 104. Now we're going to have r squared plus 5r, and we're going to have to subtract 104 from both sides. And this is going to get a little bit complicated, and since off the top of my head I can't think of two things that multiply to give me 104. Let's see. We'd have 2 and 52. And does 4 work? 4 gives me 26. So that means that 8 works, I think. 8 would give me 13. Oh, there's the ones that I want. 8 and 13 will subtract to give me 5. So, and hopefully you understand what I did there. What I did was I looked at things that divide to give me 104. So 2 times 52 gives me 104. Then I moved up to 4. 4 times 26 gives me 104. And since 2 and 4 both work, 8 will work as well. So I divided by 8 and I got 13. And 8 and 13 subtracted will give me 5. So we'll have r here and r here. We'll do 13 and 8 here. We want a positive 5 when we're done. So we do a positive 13r and a negative 8r. So now we can state, if we set these both equal to 0, r plus 13 equals 0, and r minus 8 equals 0. We're going to subtract 13 from both sides, so that r equals negative 13. We're going to add 8 to both sides, so that r equals 8. So we find out our radius is 8 because it can't be a negative 13. It can't have a radius of negative 13. So all that, we get our radius is 8 feet. And we're done. Thanks.